Welcome into the D2 Baseball Podcast. Robert Fry here today, joined with special guest Chris Rodriguez, the head coach of the University of Illinois at Springfield. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Doing great. It's been a busy fall, been a productive fall, but excited to be on this call with you.
And, speaking of it being a busy and productive fall, talk a little bit about that transition into the head coaching role. You were the pitching coach last season, now going into the head coaching role. Talk a little bit about that transition and how busy it's been for you in that regard.
It's been a good busy, but I think having the relationships established with these guys going in, I think there's a level of trust. But it's just been an awesome opportunity to get to work with these guys and lead these guys, and super excited about it.
And speaking of being super excited about it, what were some kind of first things you did as head coach? With your program.
Well, it was the summer, so we had to get some fall orders done. We had to, hunt the portal. Put golf outings in play. You name it. Anything and everything under the sun. It's all important, and that's kind of what we preach here. How you do some things is how you do everything. So everything that we could do, obviously, most importantly, making sure we have a good roster for this season. But it was a little bit of everything this summer.
And speaking of, a little bit of everything, especially in this day and age with the portal and how, college baseball rosters are changing, with you being the recruiting coordinator as well last season, how did that help you in terms of building out your roster for the 2026 season?
Definitely. I think there were some leads that we had in the JUCO trail, all spring, and then just being able to, follow up on those relationships and just, tell those guys, hey, I'm going to be stepping in as the head coach. I think we had a leg up on some of those guys, and I think once again those relationships. I think those matter a lot. The communication is big as well, and I think that's what allowed us to really hit the ground running, specifically in the spring going into the summer.
And to kind of talk a little bit about last season, kind of what from your side of the pitching side, what was your takeaway of the season? You made it to the GLVC title game, ultimately didn't go your way, but what is your takeaway on last season, and how do you plan to build upon it now that you're in the head coaching role?
I just thought the step that we made from 2024 to 2025, we just got really busy on the recruiting trail. We just had to identify some personnel stuff on the mound. I thought the guys that we had from the 24 roster to 25, they made big jumps as well, specifically Adam Lindsay. He was one of our best arms down the stretch. So I just think, once again, you have an opportunity to instill a culture, work ethic, schemes into our pitching staff. And then, seeing the growth of some of those guys was huge. But I just thought we had some really big guys that, came in this year, had really big years. And I think that's, if you got good pitching, you got a chance. And I think the guys that we had last year did an outstanding job of giving us a chance to win a lot of games.
And you mentioned culture, and curious to know if there's a team motto or anything of the like that you instilled in the program going into 2026.
Yeah, I think day one we had our team meeting, and our term for the year is WAR, and it stands for work, accountability, and resilience. So we got to be relentless workers with everything that we do. We got to hold ourselves accountable. Am I living a lifestyle that's going to help me be the best baseball player I could be, best student athlete I could be? And then lastly, just being a resilient group, right? There's a lot of adversity we've faced throughout the years here at UIS. Some of these guys and even their own personal stories have overcome a lot, and using those, life lessons to help shape you. I think that's where a lot of growth can take place. But, definitely the mantra for the year is WAR. And obviously last year it didn't go our way. And, I think we have a lot of hungry guys that have a lot to prove, not just as individuals, but more importantly as a team. And we're excited to build upon that.
And, going through kind of your coaching experience, you spent some time coaching in the Lithuanian National Team.
Oh, boy.
You spent some time with the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, Central Florida, Wright State, your alma mater, where you finished out your playing career. Talk a little bit about those diverse experiences that allow you to be, a better coach today.
I've been very blessed and fortunate that fresh out of college, I had a lot of cool opportunities probably the coolest opportunity I had was the Lithuanian National Team. I was an intern at K-Zone in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I guess the one of the guys who played on the Lithuanian national team, he used to live in Durham. I guess he still lives in Durham, lives in Lithuania half the year. And I guess they were looking for a pitching coach because at the time, the national team, um, like if you won out in these games, you would have, earned your way to the Olympics. So they had a little bit of more money put aside to bring on an assistant coach. So I'm young, I'm 24, I got nothing going on, no kids, no wife, nothing. So I'm like, let's do it. So I ended up going over there, and it was one of the coolest experiences I could have ever asked for. Guys that don't even speak the same language, but they have a passion for baseball. Just watching these guys work every single day, like they have a fish net and they have like 8 different sticks that they hand built to hang up their portable cage. So I think for us, it just, it helped me put a lot of things in perspective that, hey, we got more than enough to compete at a high level here. And, if you only saw some of the things that these guys were doing, but I think ultimately with those guys, it was a lot of passion. And, we were fortunate enough to win our tournament. And then we ended up playing Israel in the next round. I think Israel had like 7 Division I former guys, like former pro guys. I think some of those guys were even on the World Baseball Classic roster, but challenged me a lot trying to get a AAA guy out at 24 years old. But, even the Arizona Diamondbacks experience was amazing. They gave us opportunities to do a lot of different things with, amateur scouting, analytics, a lot of really smart people in that organization. Very thankful for my experience there. I think overall, I've had a lot of great people to support me during my baseball career, and I'm very thankful that I've been able to learn from a lot of smart people and great leaders. And, I feel like that's what's given me a lot of confidence to know that I could do this job at a high level.
And you kind of mentioned, analytics. Now at Division II level, the access to it may be a little bit tougher, but in your program, how do you approach it and how do you kind of enhance it to help you, build a better program?
I think for us is educating these guys, specifically on the mound, just with the experience I've had. It's just, hey, this is how you can get guys out. This is your best pitch. And just kind of using swing and miss data, whiff rates, just showing them Rapsodo, spin tilts and shapes and stuff like, hey, let's try and get our hand more on the side here. Or let's try and do, maybe more of a spike grip to create more side spin. There's a lot of different things that we could do, but ultimately, I just want to make sure these guys are educated and not be afraid to talk about it. I don't want guys to feel like we're going to nerd out on it all the time, but, it is definitely a tool that we could use to enhance our stuff. And specifically, Esteban Hernandez was probably the best guy that benefited from the most. He was a guy that at SEMO had a fastball up to 96, but, struggled with, secondary stuff. And that's what we got to work on immediately. So he improved his slider last year and his changeup, and he was an elite level strike thrower, almost threw too many strikes. And that's kind of what I told him. I was like, you can throw a 95 or 105, but if you're throwing a fastball all the time, like guys are going to be on time for it. And I think that's where he took the big next step was just being able to pitch to both sides and then, offer that secondary stuff. So it definitely helps a lot.
And you mentioned a little bit about the specifics of pitching. Now in the head coaching role, kind of what's your involvement with the pitching staff now that you're, in that role?
I've made it very apparent to these guys, like the only thing that changes about me is the title, as far as hitting fun goes, getting in the trenches and working with guys, whether it be position players, pitchers, you name it. Nothing changes about what I'm going to do from a work ethic standpoint other than, just my title change. So very involved in the pitching development, and I think, once again, we got to make sure those guys are taken care of and developed because the guy on the mound is if we got a good guy on the mound, we got a chance. So,
and speaking of
foster that.
Speaking of getting guys on the mound and having a chance, talk a little bit about the importance of defense while having a good guy on the mound.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, fortunately, during my time here, I think my first year we were 5th in the nation, and then last year we were 1st in the GOVC and taking care of the baseball. It can't be stressed enough. We got 27 outs to get, so every single time we got a chance to get them, we have to capitalize on those. So yeah, it's definitely something that we preach a lot of, do a lot of defensive work here, and a lot of fun goes, and that means we got to blister our hands and shoot the hack attack in the air to our outfielders. With the sun, don't matter. We're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure we're getting better in those areas.
And to kind of now transition from the pitching and defense side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball, how do you continue to approach with the Prairie Stars just consistent success of having a quality offense?
Definitely. I think for me, getting the head coaching job, I've been able to work alongside Will Oberg for the last 2 years. So with me getting the head coaching job, I've been able to see his work ethic every single day, what he brings to the table from an offensive side. I just think for his age, he's really advanced and he has such a bright future. And for me, it was a no-brainer. He knows the inner workings of this program. Played here in 2023, has been a coach here for 24 and 25. I don't think there was another guy that was better fit for the position than him. And I trust him a ton to run the offense and continue to do what we're doing. And I'm excited with the new guys that we got coming in and the returners that we have that we're going to be able to pick up where we left off and put a good offense together.
And the other side of it too, you mentioned Will Oberg. You also have Seth Masters, a former player. How does that help with development and, improving the team, knowing that you have guys that have played there and have done that before?
Yeah, I just think it's a huge culture piece. I think we're in a day and age where guys want instant gratification. And, Seth's story is really unique because he came in as a lefty throwing, high 70s, low 80s. And, through the work, through the development here at UIS, like he's a guy that ended up being one of the best pitchers in UIS history. So I think it's great having him around because he could share his experience of like, hey, you understand we got to work, we got to build. And understand it might not happen this year, it might not happen tomorrow, next week, but over the course of your time here, if we're putting in the time and the effort, you're going to get rewarded. And he's one of the, I guess, a lot of stories that we've had with some high school guys coming in and kind of doing their time and developing. And I think that's something that we want to definitely put into perspective, especially in a day and age where guys want it now, and it's like, hey, sometimes that's just not the reality, right? And we got to be able to work. And be disciplined during that time. So when we do get our name called, we're prepared for the moment.
And so, yeah, like you mentioned, that today's day and age with a lot of instant gratification, how do you kind of teach discipline within the program to be able to, one, delay that too, but also allow guys to just continue working and continue getting better?
Yeah, I think coincidentally a couple days ago, I was playing in the Coastal Plains League my junior year, and Cardinal scout came in and he talked about David Eckstein. So I used this story on Monday and talked about how David Eckstein was undersized, overlooked, but that scout talked about how even when David Eckstein wasn't playing or wasn't in games, like he treated his ground balls like it was Game 7 of the World Series. He treated every BP round like it was Game 7 of the World Series. Like he was always putting himself in a frame of mind to prepare for whenever his number was called. And I think there's a lot of things we could learn from that because, once again, instead of complaining and moaning and groaning on the bench, this guy was locked in every single day in his work. And then he turns out to be a World Series MVP, World Series champion. And I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from that. So definitely in a day and age where guys want it now, I think once again, we got to talk about perspective and understand that, there's a time and place for everything, but if we're getting caught up in the victimhood, we're going to miss out on those development opportunities.
And, speaking of opportunities, you have a great opportunity in having a full turf facility for your baseball field. Talk a little bit about just the opportunity of having that, especially, playing in the weather such as the Midwest.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Miami, and I think the first time I got a chance to play on turf fully was at Wright State. And at first I was like, man, like, I don't know, something about a grass and a dirt field. And then, I'm watching us take the field for practice and we got a bunt station over here. We got a station over there. We don't have to worry about tearing up grass. I'm like, I love it. I think it's totally changed my perspective. It's an absolute game changer, especially in the Midwest. So, we're fortunate to have a turf infield and we're able to get a lot of things done with, catching work in front of our dugout. We're doing pick work off to the third base side of our field. We got a full infield. We're able to do everything we really want on that turf infield. So it helps a ton with our development.
And to kind of go into development now, talk a little bit about how this fall is going so far. I know you have a couple scrimmages under your belt against outside competition, but how's the team feeling so far?
Good. I think we're in a good spot as far as our team goes. I think we've seen a little bit of everything. I think the biggest thing this fall is kind of preaching versatility. I just think, we're not going to pigeonhole guys to one spot. We got outfielders playing infield, we got infielders playing outfield, we got guys moving all around because we just want to make sure that we're, seeing every and all options to make sure that we're prepared for the spring. So I think it's been very productive. I think guys are bought in. The culture is great. I think guys are excited about what we have coming, down the pipe. And, we got 2 more weeks left of the fall and got a couple more outside competitions and some Navy gold stuff that'll happen in the next couple of weeks. So excited to finish out.
And being excited to finish out too, how much of a boon has it been that the weather is actually rather favorable this time of year
Yeah.
compared to years past?
No, it's a game changer. I think the more that we can get outside, it's just the more we can get our team together. It's huge. It's you can't beat it. So we'll take it as long as we can. We know eventually it's going to turn, but while we got it, definitely got to maximize it.
And yeah, and speaking of maximizing it, how do you as a coach try to maximize getting out on the field, especially, like I said, with this weather, at some point it's going to turn where it's going to be rather difficult to be able to be outside.
Yeah, it was funny. I think last spring our field was totally covered in snow, and one of our pitchers, he's some hillbilly, loves to hunt, fish, whatever. He's like, "Coach, man, I was at the JUCO, and we stood side by side, and we just kicked the snow off the field. And a couple of days later, the sun beat it. So we had the guys out there, and we tried to kick it off, and it totally didn't work. So I'm like, if it's going to be 35 degrees, sunny, and no wind, like we have to get the snow off the field. So fortunately, we were able to get it plowed off the next day. But we literally had snow banks. Like it looked like a snow arena, and our field was covered, in snow off to the sides. But we were able to get our infield work in, and I think that's kind of what we do here. If there's a window where we can get 20 to 30 minutes of fly ball reps or ground ball reps, a layer up, make sure you're warm. We're not going to spend more than 30 minutes, but I feel like, especially in the winter, it's a lot of hitting, pitching, bullpens, live at bats. But we don't get a lot of defensive work. So if there's any opportunities we get, even if it's for 15, 20 minutes out on the turf, like we're there. That's how we do it.
And two, the other side of it as well is, how does that help you, especially in spring when, early on in the season, you're playing home games and it's still, 40, maybe 40 degrees outside.
Yeah, I just think, guys build some mental toughness. That's where it's like, hey, we're going to do hard things. And, the intensity in the weight room matters. The intensity in practice matters. Just constantly going to a frame of mind that's going to challenge you and, kind of eliminate the elements. We played in a game the other day where it was a little bit of a rain, and understand we're going to play in moments like that. It's just, we got to find ways to be good in those moments. Because no one's going to care once the scoreboard's on, umpires are out there. Like we got to find a way to get it done.
And, you talk about mental toughness and things like that, the importance of having that kind of mental toughness, one is good as a coach, but, talk a little bit about how, from a player perspective, how that can also be translated for the rest of the team.
Definitely. No, I just think, we got, it's a full body experience, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. We talked about 4 pillars in our development, and was inspired by a video I saw online, and the guy talked about how he was a special ops agent in the Marines, and this was something that they preached a lot. It's a mental, physical, social, and spiritual development, right? And if we could be sound in all 4 of those areas, I think we're going to breed a lot of mental toughness naturally. And I think when we're firing on all cylinders, there's no one or nothing that could stop us. So understand mental toughness is not just, hey, let's do some, visualization and breathing. It's, I think how you do everything is going to, add on to what we're able to do mentally in those tough moments.
And to transition on into the spring, what should fans of UIS slash soon to be fans of UIS expect out of the Prairie Stars this spring?
I mean, they're going to be a competitive bunch. We got a lot of ball players, guys that love to play the game. Once again, I talked about it earlier, but guys that are playing out of position, they just find ways to get it done. But we got guys that are ball players, competitors, winners, guys that, that aren't afraid of the moment. And I think when it's time to go play ball, doesn't matter if it's pickleball, volleyball, ping pong, like we got guys that just want to go get after it. And, definitely expect a competitive bunch to be ready to go. early on in spring.
And the final question I have for you, Coach, is, who are some mentors slash people that helped to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, mom and dad have been a huge part of my life. Just the travel ball, the money, the time, the effort. It's been a grind for them, and I think for my dad, I think the best thing that happened to me in my life was he was the coach of this all-star team for our old rec league down in South Florida, and he left me off the team, and I remember being devastated. But I think he knew what he was doing in that moment because it's like, hey, you got to earn everything you get in this life. Nothing's going to be handed to you. So, um, that's a message that we talk about a lot, man. We gotta earn every opportunity that we get. But also, my wife, she's been unbelievable to me. Her work ethic with the two boys that we have has been what's allowed me to do what I do and do what I love. So very thankful for her. But I can go down the long list. Tino Burgo's my high school coach. Jeff Mercer at Wright State, Alex Sogard. Those guys have just been, absolute strong leaders for me, and couldn't be more thankful for their leadership. And it's definitely impacted how I coach, and that's why I got into coaching to begin with. I want to make sure that when guys get done with their playing career, they look back and they can be very happy with their experience. It's like, hey, those coaches took care of me. We did things the right way. We worked extremely hard. And we're going to win a lot of games as a result of that, and they'll be ready to do whatever they want to do whenever their playing career is done. Be ready for being a husband, father, and a productive member of society.
Coach Rodriguez, sincerely appreciate you taking the time out to chat with us and talk about the UIS baseball program. We wish you the best of luck going into 2026.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time, and we'll talk soon.
And that is Chris Rodriguez, head coach at the University of Illinois at Springfield. We'd like to give a big thank you to all of our regional tier Patreon members. We couldn't make it to the ninth inning without the support of all of you. You're the real MVPs, hitting a home run for the team every single time. Thank you.